Hello, How To Bob here, and I made this video to show you how to change the brake pads and rotors on a 2009 Nissan Altima. So we're going to get started by putting a chock under the back wheel. Then we're going to jack the car up and remove the lug nuts here. I have an impact, so I do that with the car jacked up. Take the wheel off, get the wheel cover out of there, and then I want to loosen up the two bolts on the caliper here. One at the top and another one at the bottom here. And once I get those removed, I want to get a hanger and tie it around the caliper. So I'll stick it through the hole here, kind of bend the hanger around, and then I'll wrap the hanger around the spring or something up a little bit higher. And what I'm doing is just hanging the caliper to keep the brake line here from getting kinked or bent. So now I'm going to remove my brake pads. They just slide right out. One on the inside, one on the outside. And then I want to remove my caliper bracket. Same way, there's two bolts. Now these are a little bit harder to remove. They're a little bit larger bolts. And most of the time they have Loctite on them, but there's one on the top and you can see the one down here on the bottom. So I'm going to remove that one. And I'm going to take my caliper bracket out. Just slides right out. Like it's in pretty good shape. So I'm going to take it over here and clean it up. Use my brake parts cleaner. Get it real good and clean. It doesn't hurt to clean it up while we have it out. Just makes it go back in a lot nicer. So now I'm going to tap my rotor various spots around till it loosens up. It could be rusted on pretty good. And if you don't want to replace your rotors, you can skip this step and the previous step. So got my new rotor here, and before I put my new rotor on, I want to clean it off with my brake parts cleaner again, because it comes with a coating over it to keep it from rusting. So I don't want that getting on my new pads that I'm going to put on. So I've got that all cleaned off now. I can put my brake rotor back on, and I'm going to use a brake lubricant on the slide area. The brake pad goes in here and it slides up and down, so I want that to be real easy to slide. So I'm going to add a little brake lubricant in the channels here. I don't want to put too much in, but I do want to put something so that it helps it slide a little bit easier. And it's a lot easier to do this while I have my caliper bracket out of the vehicle. You can do it while it's in there if you're not going to change the rotors, but I'm going to, so I'm going to change my rotors. So I got it out of here. I might as well do it while it's out of the vehicle. So now I'm going to Loctite the two caliper holding nuts and put those in temporarily. I didn't put them all the way in. And I put my caliper holder in, and I'll hand tighten the bolts. Put a little Loctite on there and tighten it up a little bit by hand. Then I'll go down and tighten the other one up. I left it a little bit loose. That way I can adjust it and get my other one on. Another bolt on here. Once I get that on, I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up. And I'll tighten the bottom bolt up, and I've got my caliper holder back on. I want to put my pads on. You can see the channels, and I want to put this in, and there's a little return spring here. I want to make sure that goes inside so that it springs back. You can see it's springing back, and I want to repeat the process for the inside pad. It slides right inside the channels, and I want to make sure my spring is connected so that it bounces back and forth. Now I've got a caliper spreading tool here that I'm going to move my caliper as far apart as I can. You can use one of these. If you don't have one of these, channel locks will work just fine on a car like this. So you just put the channel locks in here and gently squeeze, and it'll spread the caliper far apart. I like to use a brake quiet application here on the outside of the brake pads. I spread it around smoothly, get a nice even coat. It keeps the brakes from making noises, keeps them from squealing. Next, I'm going to take my bolts to hold the caliper on and put a little Loctite on those as well. Can never be too safe. And I'll go ahead and take the hanger off of my caliper and put my caliper into position here. And once I get my caliper into position, I can put my bolt in, and I'm going to hand tighten that bolt once I get it set here. That way it allows me to make some adjustments to get the other bolt lined up and into position. Once I get that one in, I can take my coat hanger out of the way, and then I can tighten my caliper bolts here. Make sure they're good and tight. And then I'm going to come back in with my tire, get that all lined up. Next, I'll put my wheel cover on and make sure that the valve stem is lined up with the hole in the wheel cover. And then I will take my socket and put the lug nuts on by hand first. I'll go ahead and kind of tighten them down by hand. That way I prevent any cross-threading. And once I get them on by hand, I can then come back in with the impact and tighten up all the lug nuts in a cross pattern. Now that I've got my lug nuts fairly tight, I can lower the vehicle, and I want to come back with a torque wrench and go over each lug nut, and I'm going to tighten it on this car to 80 foot-pounds of torque. And I want to do the same thing, just go around each one, make sure each one is at 80 foot-pounds of torque. Next, I'm going to pump the brake pedal before driving to get the brake fluid down into the calipers, and that's how you change the brake pads and rotors on a 2009 Nissan Altima. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.